Okay, good evening everyone, it's 5 p.m. Welcome to this evening's Healthy Living and Social Care Scrutiny Committee, taking place on Tuesday the 7th December at 5 p.m. So this is the Christmas edition. I'll just go through some housekeeping first, just so everyone is up to speed with the areas of online. If I can get my machine up and running here as well. Putting everyone on suspense here. So may I remind everyone present that the meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded via the internet, and this recording will be archived for future viewing. Could all participants please mute themselves when not speaking in order to avoid any background noise or feedback when other participants are speaking? If a participant wishes to speak, can they please put their hand up? I'll be looking out on the screen and the hand up function on MS Teams. I'll keep an eagle eye on that. Please ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. The chat function may be used to highlight any technical issues or to grab attention of the chairman, i.e. me, or the Democratic Services Officer, which is Amy here. If any participant has difficulty hearing or being heard when they are addressing the committee, then they should let the chairman or Democratic Officer know. If they have a webcam, then they should try turning this off, as this will help with bandwidth or Wi-Fi bandwidth so they can at least hear and be heard. Okay, thank you very much, and let's go on to the agenda. Before we start though, Amy, I believe you have something you'd like to announce or say?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. You've made it sound a lot more interesting than it may be now, but it was just the biannual reminder for the members of the committee of the call-in procedure and the request for consideration procedures that we have for Scrutiny Committee. You'll probably recall, members, that we have a biannual reminder, so the Democratic Scrutiny and Services Officer will just flag this with you during the meetings. Just to remind you that the processes are there, and if you want to take advantage of those, then by all means please contact myself and I can help you with that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, we can go on to the agenda. So the first agenda item is apologies for absence. As most of you probably noticed and probably already know, that a prominent member of this committee, our Vice Chair, Councillor Neil Thomas, his mother passed on the end of November, and therefore he's unable to make this meeting because today is the funeral. So I'm sure everyone here would like to extend, on behalf of the committee, their sympathies and condolences. We all know how instrumental he is to this committee and why he is so passionate and why he's on this and why his wisdom and opinions he puts 100% into this. So I'm sure everyone feels the same, and we're thinking of him this evening. So thank you, Councillor Thomas, and hope to see you next year. So in January. Amy, is there any other apologies for absence?
None received, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. We can go on now to the agenda item 2, which is the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of November 2021. So would anyone like to raise anything from the minutes, or are we happy to pass it on block? Do we have a proposer?
Yeah, I move that on block, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Jarvie.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Who was that, Councillor Nugent-Finn or Councillor Janice Charles? But thank you.
Councillor Charles, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, brilliant. Now we can move on to agenda item 3, which is to receive declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest on the committee? Just looking at the screen. No hands up. Everyone looks clear. Thank you all. And now we can move on to agenda item 4, which is one of trio of references from Cabinet, and this is Cardiff and Vale Advocacy Strategy. So I believe We have a presentation by Andrew and a member of his team, Nicola. So I'll pass it on to you. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. Is it okay if I share my screen for the presentation?
Please.
I'm going to give it a try.
Go on. It's loading. There we go. Can everyone else see it okay? Brilliant.
Thank you. And thanks also for the opportunity for us to talk about advocacy and the advocacy strategy, the Cardiff Vale advocacy strategy. I hope if I do my presentation right, you'll learn very quickly that one of the major kind of tenets of the strategy is around promotion of advocacy and promotion of the strategy. So I hope very much that this is the start of that for us. Before I start, can I introduce Nicola? Nicola is the advocacy manager in the Dowis Centre for Independent Living and is the deputy chair of the Cardiff and Vale Advocacy Network. The Advocacy Network is a group of providers, advocacy providers that have supported the development of the strategy and work together to improve advocacy services across the region. I think that's about right, Nicola.
Yes, thanks, Anne. Thank you very much, everybody, for the invite.
So I'll zoom through the presentation. I promise I won't keep you very long, and then hopefully we'll have some questions at the end. So did that work? There we go. So advocacy. I know everyone has a view of what advocacy is, and there are so many different definitions of advocacy out there if you ever took a minute to do some research. But within the Cardiff and Vale strategy, we picked this definition. It's the definition that is in the Social Services and Wellbeing Act Code of Practice, and it's about advocacy is taking action to help people say what they want, secure their rights, and represent their interests, and obtain the services that they need. Advocacy schemes work in partnership with a person and take their side. It's about social inclusion, equality, and social justice. So advocacy isn't about the council. It isn't about social services. It's about the person. Okay, so advocacy has been around since human beings have been around. People have kind of supported each other for forever. What we want for everybody is to be able to self-advocate, to stand up for yourselves, to say what's important to you. But of course, we know some people aren't able to do that, given their own set of circumstances, or given the circumstances that they find themselves in, like the bewildering world of care and support, for instance. So most people who aren't able to self-advocate will rely on their own informal networks of support, that might be family and friends. But for those that don't have a family or a friend that can support them, there's a range of advocacy services and advocacy provisions that might be able to help. And it goes all the way across this kind of windscreen wiper towards more formal advocacy. That I don't know, maybe a GP is advocating for a patient who is being referred to for hospital treatment. But in some circumstances, of course, I've lost my train of thought there. In some circumstances, there might be a conflict between what a professional thinks is in that person's best interest and what the person wants, and that's why it's important that we have a provision of independent advocacy that isn't there to support what they think that person should have and what they think the person needs, but is there to represent very clearly what the person is saying, what the person wants, their voice.
And can I come in there a sec, just to add in as well, you said about people having somebody who can advocate for them. It's important as well to remember that they must want that other person, if it's going to be informal, to do it for them. Far too often in advocacy we're told, yes, they've got family, but do they want that family member to advocate as well? So I just wanted to bring that in there.
Thank you. So the Social Services and Wellbeing Act. Oh, sorry, I think somebody's raising their hand.
That's okay, Andy.
I'll carry on.
Yes, please, Andy.
Yeah, sorry. So the Social Services and Wellbeing Act kind of reiterated the importance of advocacy and introduced new duties on local authorities for the provision of independent professional advocacy, and I think those new duties prompted the Cardiff and Vale Regional Partnership Board to ask to set up initially a steering group and set that steering group kind of a range of challenges to kind of interrogate what the current arrangements for advocacy were, look for gaps and to kind of set out a new vision for advocacy. So you can see the challenges there that the partnership board set about. So removing barriers to access, exposing and rectifying any gaps, and to ultimately produce a commissioning strategy. So at the moment, as things stand across the region, both Cardiff and the Vale commission their advocacy services separately and slightly differently. So if you live in St Mellons, you might get a very different advocacy service than you would do if you lived in St Bride's. And the Regional Partnership Board felt that we needed some consistency. Currently, we've got some very long-standing contracts with 4 main providers of advocacy services, and I might say they provide perhaps traditional advocacy services, and you can see they're the 4 main providers for older people and people living in care homes, people with learning disabilities, a generic advocacy service for people with care and support needs. That's the Vale only, and advocacy for carers with support needs. And about, well, in 2018, the steering group said about one of the challenges that the RPB gave, which was making advocacy as accessible as possible. So we introduced the Cardiff and Vale Advocacy Gateway, which is a kind of a hotline to advocacy services, a single free phone number that is available to members of the public and professionals as a quick access into advocacy services. So we've begun forming the strategy. As I said before, the Social Services and Wellbeing Act introduced the duty around independent professional advocacy. So this is that the local authority must arrange the provision of an independent professional advocate where the person can only overcome the barriers to fully participate in their care and support, or the review of their care and support, or if they're going through a safeguarding challenge, with the assistance of an appropriate individual. So absolutely, as Nicola said earlier on, a person is only appropriate if the person wants them to be their advocate, and actually if they've got the skills and knowledge to be able to advocate for their person given that set of circumstances. And of course, if there isn't such an appropriate person, then the local authority must. It isn't something that they can or can do if they fancy. They absolutely must arrange for the provision of an independent professional advocate. we also began to identify some gaps in the service provision across the area, and I've just given some examples here. Advocacy for parents, for children who are going through, or working with children's services. Also, we found that sometimes access to advocacy wasn't timely enough. So there were delays in getting your first appointment with your advocate, by which time perhaps your issue that you needed advocacy had kind of been I was going to say been resolved, but been dealt with, but maybe not in a way that the person's voice was probably listened to or taken account of. So it's really important that advocacy services are readily and rapidly available. Other gaps were that we found that there was a real variability in the understanding of the duty to arrange advocacy, but also the understanding of the value of the independence of advocacy. I'll often speak to social workers who will say, and nurses and health professionals who will say, I can advocate very well for my patient. Thanks very much. And of course they can, and they're duty bound. Me as a social worker, I'm duty bound to represent what I think is in that person's best interest. But sometimes what's in the person's best interest might not be what they want, whereas an advocate is there to represent their view, and so that conflict is often misunderstood. And the introduction of the Golden Thread Advocacy Programme. This was a Welsh Government programme through Age Cymru that supported the development of the strategy and has provided a framework for commissioning that we're hopefully using as part of our commissioning process now over the next few months. Get in there, don't worry. So we undertook a whole range of consultation to inform the strategy. It was done at a really difficult time because we were in the middle of COVID, kind of March and April last year, so we didn't have as many kind of group sessions, consultation sessions as perhaps we would like to. But we took a kind of a two-pronged approach, I guess. And myself and a colleague in Cardiff undertook consultation events with health and social care professionals, and Nicola and the advocacy network arranged consultation with advocacy providers, advocates, and people who use advocacy and their carers. So hopefully that gives us a good rounded picture. And what they said, and again this is a summary. That it was really important that we didn't put all our eggs in one basket. We didn't just put all our resource into independent professional advocacy. We retained a kind of rounded capacity for a whole range of different types of advocacy. Advocacy needed to be readily and rapidly accessible. It needed to be available through transition. Very often, of course, parents are absolutely the right person to advocate for a child, but going through transition, sometimes the child's voice is lost. So the importance of advocacy there is clear. We needed both generic and specialist advocacy. Currently, our advocacy is probably being described as generic, so the gaps there around substance misuse, disabled facilities grants, and parent carers. We really needed to promote advocacy so that it was the first thing that anyone thought of when working with somebody in health and social care arena, so that people weren't left without a voice, not felt without a voice. Sorry about that. And the advocacy providers should the quality should be consistent, and any commissioning arrangement should consider a quality mark for providers. So that was the summary of the consultation. The strategy adopted 4 main principles, and the first one is around a co-productive approach with all stakeholders. So in the strategy, you'll notice under each of these principles, there's a whole range of commitments that we've described, and I've just pulled out some of them here. So I probably don't need to go through all of these, do I? but the principles are based around co-production, collaboration, raising awareness, and being really clear about what advocacy is and when it should be used. The next steps. So we are now in the position where we're wanting to recommission our advocacy services over the next 12 months or so. We've got an indicative kind of procurement timetable there. So we're hoping to co-produce our service specifications and commissioning model in kind of the winter to the spring now, over the next 3 months. And that we aim to kind of open the tendering process in April with the hope that we will commence new contracts in November. So it's pretty tight timetable, but we've put a lot of work into the strategy, and we think we want to kind of strike while the iron's hot, really. At the same time, it's really important that we produce a communication strategy so that we start raising awareness and that we're really clear about what advocacy is and what it isn't, so that everybody, whether you're a patient in a hospital ward or somebody who's trying to understand information, assistance and advice on the council website, that you can have access to advocacy should you need it. And also at the same time as we're commissioning new providers, we're wanting to develop a model of monitoring and review of those new providers that is done in a collaborative way and uses the skills and experience of people who have used advocacy. And you'd be glad to know, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Would yourself, Nicola, would like to add anything, or are you happy to both go on to questions?
Yeah, happy to go on to questions.
Okay, thank you for the presentation, both. Hi there, Suzanne.
Sorry to interject. I just wanted to add really to say that Andy has been instrumental in terms of taking this piece of work forward. He has been committed and dedicated despite the challenges to ensure that the strategy is in a place where it can get to this point, and just to have that on record, because it's due to that commitment and to bring people together to get this far. So just wanted to identify that and bring that to members' attention. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Suzanne. I have had the advocacy, the network, kicking me up the bum all along the way, though. Don't worry.
Thank you, Suzanne. Well done, Andrew. Great work. Councillor Charles, I see you got your hand up. Would you like to ask?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was very fortunate a few years ago that I could use DUIS in conjunction with the council, and I couldn't sing praises high enough for it. I think it's absolutely marvellous. It takes the frustration, the strain, the worry out of everything that you need to get done. It is fantastic in as much as you can choose the person yourself that you want to come along. It doesn't have to be somebody that the council nominates, and DUIS actually arrange all the advertising for this person. They arrange the wages. They just do everything. And I'm just wondering, because of this, how many people do we actually have doing this that live in the Vale of Glamorgan at the moment, and how well is it actually advertised? Because, as I say, through the council, I use DUIS, and it's just absolutely wonderful.
Shall I answer that, Nicola, or do you want to?
Yeah, I can come in a little bit as well. From what I'm hearing, but there you're talking about a direct payment scheme in that respect, which is very separate to this side of the scheme. So that would be something for others within the company to be able to answer from our perspective. But from the advocacy side, I think it's important to say at this point that we're very clearly have a defined line that what we do is separate to what happens around the direct payments and all of that, because sometimes the issue could be about somebody's direct payment, so we have to keep everything completely separate. So even though we use the same system, ours is locked down and nobody can access that, and that's an important feature for advocacy, that we are very much independent, as Andy said earlier, from every other service, and are only there to represent the person. But thank you for those words as well about the company, and I will actually make sure that I pass those on to the direct payment side as well.
Thank you. I think you're all angels there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Charles. Councillor Nugent-Finn, hi there.
Hello, thanks, Chair. Thanks both for the information. Andy, it's lovely to see you again. I know you can't see me, but it's nice to see you again. It feels like forever.
It is.
Mine's not a question, really. It's just comments to echo Councillor Charles's sentiment, really. You know, if we think about the 5 principles of advocacy, and the purpose is about safeguarding confidentiality, equality, diversity and empowerment, and it's all about putting people first, and this just does this so beautifully. And so it's just really to complement what's been said here this evening, and we must never underestimate the importance of advocacy in every section of society, as you quite rightly said at the beginning, Andy. This dates back forever and ever and ever, and you know, it's needed. You know, sometimes we are just too entrenched, so this is something I value and hold very close to my heart, but professionally as well, it is just the way forward, and it's a wonderful report to read. So thank you all that's involved. That's it from me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nugent-Finn. Would anyone else like to ask a question or make a comment? Okay. I'll just, before I move on, Councillor Charles, if you want to put your hand down, then that'd be great. Thanks. And then just one comment from myself. The work is brilliant. It's one of those things, advocacy it develops, and it's something that is just becomes so essential, and it's something that you don't know it's there until you really need it, and it's great. And yeah, and I wish all the luck, and you know, all the collaboration between the two areas. Hopefully we can bring everyone together and make sure we don't miss, you know, it'll make sure everyone's covered and gives people voices where needed. So best of luck. Thank you all.
Much.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to say thank you to you both, because I can't see anyone else, and Suzanne as well, for the presentation and taking those questions. So I believe that is it. Are we happy to move on? I see Democratic Services has got their hand up. Interjecting.
Sorry, Chair, it was just me. It was just to confirm, for the sake of the minutes, that obviously we've had the presentation on the back of the Cabinet reference, and therefore we'll be noting the reference this evening as a committee. Is that okay with yourselves and the committee?
I'm happy with that, to pass that. Anyone to second? Okay, Councillor Jarvie. Okay, thank you all. Have a great evening, and enjoy your Christmas. See you all next year. Okay, we move on to the next agenda item now, which is another reference from Cabinet, number 5, Corporate Safeguarding Mid-Year Report. Who do we have for this? Natasha?
Yes, it's me.
Hi there.
Hello.
Take it away.
Okay, so this is a report referred from Cabinet. This just gives an overview of, as you said, a midterm report for our corporate safeguarding activity. You'll note that you get annually an annual report that has lots of detail about all of the activity across all of the different directorates. The purpose of this report is just to provide some assurances that corporate safeguarding activity continues throughout the year, that our priorities are being aligned to that of our regional safeguarding board, and also picking up on the emerging themes and priorities across the safeguarding agenda. There isn't anything in this report, particularly in terms of information being provided on specific activities, but it's just to provide that overview to yourselves that we have continued to meet, even though it's been challenging and a very busy time, we have good representation from across all of the directorates. So there is a good commitment to the safeguarding agenda across the local authority and all of our colleagues across the various directorates. We are looking at developing our safeguarding data, so what we collect from all the various strands of activity, not just from social services, but from across learning and skills, environment and housing, so that we're able to kind of provide within midterm reporting and end of year reporting some like dashboard style information to you to further provide that assurance, and some quality assurance activity that we will be undertaking. I think we are re-looking at the corporate safeguarding policy that we will be refreshing in the new year. We will bring that back to scrutiny. I think that must be April time. The next one that we will provide a report to fit for your oversight, and we will also be looking at how we communicate some of our safer recruitment information. We keep that's on the agenda and a standing agenda item for every corporate safeguarding group, so we do have good oversight and monitoring of that information. We're also developing the thematic learning that we take from practice reviews and how we respond to recommendations and action plans following those reviews and lessons learnt. I think we do that in our individual directorates at the moment. However, what we've decided is that we want to do that collectively together through the corporate safeguarding group. And I think that's a whistle-stop tour of that report, but as you'll see, it is kind of a midterm summary of activity.
Thank you, Natasha. Would anyone like to ask anything of the report to Natasha? Or are we happy just to note the report and move on? Okay, I think we're all happy with this one. Are we happy to do this? I propose to move it on. Would anyone like to second that? Okay, Councillor Jarvie. Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Natasha. And now we can move on to agenda item 6. You're happy to leave, Natasha, if you haven't got anything. Merry Christmas.
You. Bye.
No problem. Over to you, Lance, with the draft Vale of Glamorgan Council Annual Delivery Plan 2022 and 2023.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Griff. So that's, I think, our last referral from Cabinet. But it is another one of those. And I suppose it's just really to let you know that it's coming to you as part of the programme of consultation. And I suppose to just to kind of reiterate some of the bits within that, it's been aligned to the council's wellbeing objectives contained in the corporate plan that you would expect. And our service plans, which will be presented in the new year, will be prepared as a result of it as well. So in terms of the draft, it obviously kind of provides a bit of a bridge between that corporate plan and the service plans, and I think there are a number of cross-cutting themes within it: Project Zero, community capacity, hardship, care and support, transformation and infrastructure. And I suppose it's probably worth me letting you know that plan has been developed through a series of discussions with the senior leadership team, and I suppose a number of things have been considered, things that you would expect, like our statutory duties and so on, but clearly with an eye on resources and on the draft Public Service Board Wellbeing Assessment. In terms of the timetable for consultation, we're currently in the stage of that consultation, which runs till 9th of January. In January 22, we'll see it amended in response to that, and then go to Corporate Resources on the 17th of February, who will consider a revised version Cabinet will then consider the final draft at the end of February, and Council will see that at the end of towards the beginning of March, and then delivery happens from April 22 to March 23. There's lots I could go through. I suspect you don't want me to in detail. From I suppose the purposes of this committee, there are elements of that you would see feel far more relevant to our work, and particularly I think within Objective 3 has got a lot of relevance to social services in that it's about supporting people at home in their community. So I'm happy to take any queries or questions, but I also recognise that we have a Q2 report further down the agenda too, which there may be questions for as well. So happy to deal with that then.
Thank you, Lance. So here we have before us a draft report. Like Lance said, I should call it not a report, but does anyone got any comments or would like to give any feedback on the delivery plan? Okay, I don't see we got any hands up, so are we happy as is? And hopefully by the time
there's a recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Charles. Would anyone like to second that if we're happy with it?
Yeah, I'll second it, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Lance. We can now move on to agenda item 7, which is the Revenue and Capital Monitoring Report for the period of April the 1st, 2021 to 30th September 2021, and revised budget for 21-22. That was a long sentence.
Okay.
Hi there, Amanda. Carolyn, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Chair. I'll present the report now.
Okay.
The report starts off by advising that this time of year we revise the budget for any technical adjustments or internal recharges and changes to vitamins. These don't alter the bottom line of the budget, so it will not affect any variance. They will stay the same. Historically, under the RMS heading, there's only been a budget held that relates to the core management, and other services under this heading, such as the brokerage team or the contracting team or the protection team and care homes, have all been recharged at year end to the adults and children's services. In order to make the budget probably look more accurate and reflect the actual RMS budget position, we have thought it was best to actually discontinue these recharges this year, and therefore the RMS budget has increased from 292,000 to 6.9 million. So as I say, what we're going to intend to do is, instead of transferring the budget all out to adults and children at year end, we'll keep it all together, and we just feel it's more reflective, and it shows a better position of how that area is actually performing. So this can be seen in more detail in Appendix 1. This report goes on to outline the overspend that is projected to year end, which at the moment we're saying is going to be around 1.1 million. Children's are projected to overspend by 600,000. The main area of the overspend is the placement budget, but there are pressures in other areas which are outlined in the report. The position has been mitigated in part by additional grant, and we have detailed in the report additional social care recovery fund monies. We are also claiming funding from Welsh Government hardship grant on a monthly basis for additional placement costs and additional staff that as a result of COVID-19. Adults are projecting a net overspend of £500,000. This is due to pressures on the community care budget. Again, this position has been mitigated by Social Services Recovery Grant. The report then goes on to outline changes to the capital programme approved since the last report to committee. and we've received additional grant funding from Fine Start, and there are various variants between schemes. As I say, they're all detailed in the report, so I won't go into those in any detail, but I'm happy to take any questions if members have any questions about the content of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Carolyn. Would anyone like to ask anything of this agenda item report? I don't believe I see anyone, so are we happy then to pass the two recommendations? So number one, that we consider the position of what we've just been told, and that we note the revised budget for 21-22.
Move recommendations, Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you both. Thank you. And now we can move on to agenda item 8, which is the initial revenue budget proposal for 22 and 2023. Once Carolyn speaks to this report, I believe Councillor Gwyn-John, who is joining us today, would like to speak on this agenda item as well.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'll start. The provisional settlement will not be received until the 21st of December, so it is quite late this year. But in order to enable consultation, the report has been brought forward in front of you for your comments, and the projected position for next year has had to be based on several varying scenarios, as we are at this point uncertain of what the settlement will be from Welsh Government. So the next year's settlement from Welsh Government has been modelled on a 1% reduction, a 1% increase, a cash neutral basis, and also the same as the Council received last year, which was 4.42%. In order to build a picture for next year of what the budget requirements will be for the Council, services have been asked to submit cost pressures. So cost pressures from across the Council total 22.5 million, and there are also cost pressures for pay awards. The pressures for this committee are detailed in Appendix 1, and they are totaling 10.4 million. There are currently no saving targets that are identified for 22 to 23. So, quite often at this stage of the year, we will have specific saving targets for the future years, but at this point we have not. Varying levels of council tax have also been modelled, and these have been 3.2%, which was the CPI level in August, 3.9%, which was last year's council tax increase, and 7.05%, which would bring the level of the council tax to the Welsh average. Paragraph 2.8 of the report, if I can bring your attention to that, shows the varying shortfalls in funding projected for next year based on funding all the cost pressures and not having any savings identified at the moment. The lowest being a shortfall of 13.6 million and the highest being a shortfall of 26 million. This is substantially higher than it has been in previous years, and also the cost pressures that have been brought forward for the council as a whole are substantially higher than that we have had from what I can recall in any year, really. So they are very large this year. So members are asked for their recommendations, which can be put forward to Corporate Performance and Resources Committee, who will in turn consider those recommendations and pass them on to Cabinet. The budget will then go to Cabinet for approval in February. It will then also go back to Corporate Performance and Resources, and there will be final approval with Council in March. For members, the level of reserves held by this committee are shown in Appendix 3, so that's just there for information. So members are being asked to provide any recommendations on these cost pressures, and it will be helpful in the budget setting process, and officers are obviously here to provide further clarification of any of those cost pressures if required. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Councillor John, would you like to speak? And then Councillor Thomas can.
Policy really is members of the committee before me, as I'm not on the committee, so I don't want to jump in front of anyone.
I'm happy to let Councillor John go first. Anyway.
Right, well, thank you, Councillor Thomas. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate all these cost pressures are deserving support. There's no doubt about that. It's a huge demand on the social services budget every year. But since I've become the carers champion, it's even more impressed on me that I can see the real need for support for domiciliary care, and particularly 24, 25 and 26 paragraphs on the cost pressures. As the last three, I'm looking this evening for you to give these priority support. The domiciliary care, basically, there are so many elderly people waiting for support, and particularly those locked up in hospital, waiting to come out with a care package. It's a huge demand, and quite honestly, there aren't enough carers to go around. We're working very hard to bring more carers into the system, but this is the demand on us, and quite honestly, with the growing population getting older day by day, as we all are, aren't we, Councillor Thomas? We're all getting a bit older. So basically, you know, there are more and more people out there now in need of support. And I have met this in my practical work with my late wife before I took this role on. And basically, I have seen throughout the hospitals, throughout the people in my community of Lantford Major were served by carers. And I would emphasise the support tonight is needed for these people. So I would ask committee if they would support these items tonight, that we can move on into the next year. It's a very, very difficult time for us, and there's a huge demand on this budget this year. It's probably the worst it's been for many years. So I'll shut up now, Chairman, and ask for support tonight, if you would. Members, support these items in the budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor John. Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I completely agree with what Gwyn has said. But the trouble I think that we all face is looking at this list in front of us. I wouldn't like to be sitting here picking what we do and what we don't do, because it's, you know, the budget used to be a case of directors putting bids in for things that they wanted to do, and it was a bit of a wish list. We all know that that's not the case anymore. These are all essential things. It's very difficult to actually say, well, we're not going to do one or not going to do the other. And I really couldn't make a suggestion of what was cut out. We need to do our best to support everything that we can on this list, because it's all essential. It's very difficult at the moment with not having the settlement from Welsh Government, and very shortly we will have the initial settlement, which presumably will be what we end up with at the end, because it very rarely changes after that. But once we get that, we'll have a lot better idea of where we're going and what we can do. And you know, I hope we're not going to be having arguments when it comes to setting the budget about the possibility of putting council tax up to actually cover some of these, because they're essential things which, as Gwyn says, we're all getting older. We're all going to be probably using some of these services in the years to come, and we've just got to support them. So I'm sorry, I'm not really a lot of help in what I'm saying to actually prioritise things, because I can't really see anything on there that shouldn't have a priority. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Would anyone else like to speak to the report or any items they would like to ask questions about? Hiya, Councillor Gray, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd just like to thank those members that have contributed so far. it's a particular skill to try and put together a budget when you don't know some of the parameters, such as what the income's going to be. I wanted to assure you, as a scrutiny committee, that at every opportunity I have shared a need for central funding to be helped in this instance. I think I expressed at this committee my desire for the consequentials of the national insurance raise to be fed into social care and not simply into the issues within the NHS, although we recognise, of course, there are pressures all through both the health and social care system. I thank Councillor John for articulating the issue regarding people being stuck in hospital. There's a greater number of people stuck in their homes being, you know, a level of support from their family that's unsustainable, and really struggling as well. And so, you know, I think the committee understand it's not just a money issue to solve that problem, and no doubt we can revisit that, and we discussed it indeed in the questions at council last night. So thank you for the comments, and it has been a strange cost pressures exercise this year, Councillor Thomas. Thank you for recognising that. I think it's certainly a continual source of frustration that there aren't those easy to pick items. I can see Councillor Moore wants to come in, and I will say, following on from what Karen said at the beginning, there's certainly no desire for me or anybody to hold on to reserves that could be used to help alleviate the budgetary pressures. But where we have a continual pressure that's going to mount year after year, we all understand that reserves are not going to be the long-term solution for that. So we're open to every possibility of how we solve this, and I thank the officers who put together the revenue budget proposal so far, and to those members who've contributed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. And Councillor Moore, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and can I thank Ben for the comments, and thank Caroline for presenting the report. I have to say, I've been here a long time, and I've never seen a budget like this one, and the cost pressures, which are immense. I have to bring in a bit of reality, because we've been going through some of the budgets already. There's 22 million that you can see in your report, but there's another 4.5 in terms of paying the rest of it. So, you know, there is not, and this is a plea really for people to start thinking seriously, because there's no way that we're going to be able to fund all of these without, and John has made a comment, without some increases in council tax. In terms of revenue, over the last 10 years, from central government and therefore Welsh government, etc., revenue for social care has dropped by 15%. The problem is social care is getting worse, or in terms of paying for it, in terms of the amount of people that we have to deal with. We have an ageing community, as Gwyn and John has already said. So what I'm pleading for you really is to say, look, there are going to be some things we're going to have to cut out of this. There's bound to be, but again, what Ben said, you know, we've got some reserves, but we can't use them forever, because once you use them, they're gone. Once they're gone, you can't use them again, and yet that doesn't increase the base budget for the year on. So for the next year. Now, I have heard that we may have a decent settlement this year, but we don't know. But I've also heard that if we have a decent settlement this year, we won't have a decent settlement for the year after and the year after that. So, as John said, you know, I don't want to pick anything out the year, but reality has to kick in. Either we have to pay for it, and that's why in the report, and Caroline's highlighted it, is that we made some assumptions, and 4.2 is the current CPR. When the report was written, it was 3.2, and that was only in August, in August. So it's jumped by at least 1% to last month. I haven't seen the figures that have been released this month yet. I don't think they're out yet. But that's why we put that in instead of the 3.2. The other thing is, the other reason we've also put in is the 7% increase in council tax to get us back to a Welsh average. Because if many of you have listened to me in the past, you know that I've always tried to get to a Welsh average or an SSA provision. What we haven't put in the report, and I think maybe you should know it, is that to get to an SSA provision, in other words, where Welsh Government say we should be spending, it would mean a council tax increase of 13.6%. Now, no way in the world that we're advocating that, but it's the reality check we have to start thinking about in terms of this and the pressures. And I have to say, the officers have put these in, and they've all gone through the fact that they're not wish lists anymore. As John made the point, things we'd like to do. These are the things we have to do. We've got problems in terms of care. Gwyn made the point about the carers. We've lost a couple of care homes. Whether or not any others are going on the brink, I don't know. I hope not. But we're also losing the care. So dom care is an issue, whereas people are saying, well, I don't want to do this anymore. I can go and stack shelves in Tesco's for as much, if not more money. Being a carer is not an easy thing to do. So all I'm saying to you is, you have to think seriously about this, and you have to think seriously about if you want to have these cost pressures, we have to do something about it. But that means putting our council tax up. It's a reality check. That's all I'm saying, and that's why I wanted to come in. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Would anyone else on the committee would like to ask any questions or make a comment? Okay, I don't see anyone's hands up. So we have one recommendation on this agenda item, which is we consider these items, what the cost pressures are, and we need to pass any comments we do have to the Corporate Performance and Resources Security Committee. I echo the comments of everyone who has spoken. This is one of the areas where you can't really let the ball drop, and whatever you need to do to make sure that the wheels keep on turning and that the cost pressures just don't overwhelm us. So, and like I say, reserves can only get you so far, and once they're gone, then you have to scramble. So it's better to get things aligned the way as you want to. So, are we happy then to pass? Happy to pass this as is? Do we have a proposer?
Yeah, Chairman, I think what I'd like to move then is that the comment that goes to Corporate Resources is that Corporate Resources do their utmost to support these bids from social services as they are all essential. And I think, yeah, leave it at that. But I understand that, as Neil said, we probably can't support them all. But I think they should be looking to support them as best they can.
Okay. Are we happy with that? Say that we try and support as many of these initiatives and what we're proposing as possible.
Thank you, Chair. If I may, obviously that's proposed by Councillor Thomas. Are you happy to second that recommendation?
Councillor Charles, I see you've got your hand.
Yeah, I just think because I don't think that the people we deal with, I think it's the people that need our help. And I'm fully supportive of what John said, in as much as we really do need to find the money for this.
Okay, are we happy for you to second that, Councillor Charles? Okay, happy to second.
Sorry, Chair, just to check. Councillor Charles, are you seconding Councillor Thomas's motion?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Thanks, Janice.
Okay, Chair, so just to confirm that we are obviously noting the report before committee this evening, and that the single recommendation passed on to CPR is that obviously all cost pressures be supported to the best of the council's ability, as set out within the appendix of the report.
Yeah, that sounds very reasonable.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for their comments. And now we move on to agenda item 9, which is initial capital programme proposals 2022 to 23 to 26 to 27. Hi, Carolyn.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Yeah, so again, it's a similar position as with regard to the revenue report. We do not have any indication as to what the potential capital settlement will be for next year. Therefore, at this stage, we are unable to approve any of the bids that have been submitted. Appendix 1 to the report does show capital schemes that have previously been approved for the next 5 years. So there's a small number there. Appendix 2 to the report then lists the bids to the value of £3 million that has been received for this committee. And 350,000 relate to social services, while 2.6 million relate to leisure services. So as I say, due to the uncertainty of the level of funding, none of those bids at the current time have been approved. So again, it's coming out for consultation, really, to make members aware of what has been requested, and to seek any recommendations you might have on the £3 million of bids that have been put forward by the services. And as I say, again, any comments that you have will be passed to corporate performance and eventually then go to Cabinet and Council. But as I say, any comments would be helpful for the other committees. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Do we have any questions we would like to ask of this programme proposal? Okay. Hi, Councillor Gray, just stuck in there.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to note, as has been mentioned before in the monitoring previously by Carolyn, we have funds that come down for capital reasons that we can't predict, and this is an even more vague area sometimes when it comes to the allocations. So I think it's worth noting that there are always plans in the background as to how we can further enhance the environment of our care homes and other areas within the social service capital portfolio. But clearly, as stated, the figures here are where we absolutely have to spend the money. So I hope once again you'll be able to support those going forward. But noting that we will always jump on opportunities for regional funding or if other sources come along to support the issues.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. Thank you for all your words. Okay, are we happy then that we've considered the proposals and that we have no recommendations other than are we happy with it as it is? Do we have a proposer?
Yeah, Chairman, I move that we ask corporate resources to support these bids to the best of their ability, best of the council's ability then.
Okay, but I'm happy to support that. Are you second? Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you, Carolyn. I believe this is your last scrutiny committee with us as you are retiring, correct?
Yeah, I might come to the January one, possibly. We'll see. but possibly it might be my last, yes.
That's okay. Just a formal thanks from us from the scrutiny committee here.
Thank you very much.
That's fine.
Lance or Dave or anyone else, would you like to comment, or you?
I was just going to say, I was hoping Karen meant January 23 and that she's here for at least another year, because I think, she's done an incredible amount of work with the whole of our directorate, from me when I was head of adult services, and sometimes, you know, those discussions weren't always straightforward. Sometimes she was quite challenging, as she should be, I think, and I suppose what that has led to, I think, is a high degree of rigour in our directorate, and we've seen some great examples of that this evening in terms of the cost pressures that we put forward for you. I know I can't put anything under get under Carolyn's radar, something that is a wish list or that is just something that's nice to do. It has to be well thought out and reasoned, and I think she's going to be a big loss to the council.
Well, thank you, Lance. That's very kind of you. Yes, I mean, I've obviously been working with social services for a long time now, and you know, it's good to see the staff, you know, are so sort of hardworking. They are, and from my point of view, they're very financially aware, which is obviously very helpful from my perspective. And you know, over the last few years, they've had such a large savings programme, which they've worked through, and you know, they've sort of looked at how services can be reconfigured, but obviously put in, you know, the sort of the clients there at the heart of it as well. You know, and it's a really hard service to attempt to make savings from, because you know, there is always demand and it's always increasing. But everybody has worked so hard and they've really, you know, supported me. So yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure working with you all. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, lovely, thank you.
Okay, Merry Christmas. You can have. Do we have another agenda item with you, Carolyn, this evening? No. So we're on to.
Yeah, I think that was my last one. Thank you.
No worries. You can stay on, or you're happy to log out. It's fine for you. No worries.
Thank you very much. All right, lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, we're on to agenda item 10, annual delivery plan monitor report, Q2 performance. This is the report you were talking about earlier, Lance.
Yes, I'm conscious there's 181 pages attached if I add all the appendices. So I think members will be pleased to know I'm not planning to talk through it at all, really. The one bit I suppose I did want to pick out, but although it's obviously it's at the end of Q2, was out of, if you've got the contents page numbers up, because some of the numbers of the different reports don't make sense. I think it's page 38, which is just a kind of update of where we were with regard to our coronavirus recovery at the time. And I think, you know, it's really pleasing to see, although I appreciate that was some months ago now, the progress that we had made of trying to get things to operate as normally as we can, given albeit a very difficult context since. Overall, in terms of the annual delivery plan, it is has a RAG status of green, which means that things are seen to be going well. But given all the things that are within it, it's probably best to wait and see if any members have any questions, and then I'm sure one of us will be able to answer them.
Thank you, Lance. Would anyone like to ask any questions of the report? Don't see anyone's hands up. We just check the chat channel here. That's fine. So thank you again for yourself and the team for the report and the in-depth information that goes into it. So we've got 3 recommendations, I believe, that we consider the results and the progress. So we've just done that. Again, consider the remedial actions and any areas of underperformance, and we note the progress made during this during the pandemic. So, are we happy then to note the report as is?
Yeah, Chairman, I'm happy to move the report and to congratulate all the team on all the efforts that they've put into it.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Would anyone like to second? If not, I'll go ahead and second.
Yeah, I'll second, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Charles. Okay. Thank you, Lance. Thank you again for your assistance on the reports. And now we can just quickly move on to agenda item 11. I don't have any urgent items, and I don't have any urgent items again on part 2, agenda item 12. So there we are. We're at the end of the meeting. Amy, when do we have the next meeting for this committee?
It's on the 11th of January, Chair.
Okay, brilliant. So we'll be in 2022. Okay. Well,
and by then we'll know how much money we got.
Hopefully it's a big pot. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Okay,
have a great evening.
Thank you.
Have
Thank you.
a blessed New Year and a happy Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Cheers, everybody.
Merry
Like the background now.
Bye now.
Yep.